Hey to everyone out there watching, it's JT from Keystone Crew Outdoors. Welcome back to Northeast PA's #1 fantasy fishing show. That never gets old. I know we're the only one, so we're going to be #1 for a while, I think. As always, if you haven't signed up for fantasy fishing yet, you can sign up at bassmasterfantasy.com. After signing up, search the groups tab for Keystone Crew and join up. Bit of a break between events here from the Bassmaster Classic on the Tennessee River to Lake Murray. It's been a while, so I'm not going to spend too much time on the Classic. If you had a perfect lineup, though, this is what it would have looked like. Jeff Gustafson finished first. I believe he was in Bucket A. Drew Benton was in Bucket B. He finished fourth. Bucket C, we had Brian Schmidt. He finished second. Jay Shakurit finished seventh. And Jonathan Dietz finished 13th. So that's what a perfect lineup would have looked like from the last event, the Bassmaster Classic on the Tennessee River. A quick look in at our leaderboards here from the Keystone Crew, Rapala, Bassmaster Fantasy Fishing. Here's our top 10. And here's a look in at our Mercury Bassmaster Drain the Lake Challenge leaderboards, our top 10 for the Keystone Crew group. Now on to Lake Murray from Columbia, South Carolina from April 20th through the 23rd. Lake Murray is a reservoir fed by the Saluda River. It was built in the 1920s to provide hydroelectric power to the state of South Carolina. An engineering feat of its time, the Saluda Dam used native red clay soil and bedrock and was the largest earthen dam in the world when it was completed in 1930. The lake itself gets its name from the project's chief engineer, William S. Murray. Bill Murray. Lake Murray is approximately 50,000 acres and has roughly 650 miles of shoreline. It's 41 miles long and 14 miles wide at its widest point. 61 pounds won here in mid-May of 2011. That's the last time that the elites were on Murray. A spawn or early post-spawn bite is probably going to be in play. If the weather cooperates, it could be a productive bite with warmer temperatures and the potential for some topwater fishing to be in play. I also think there's going to be a lot of sight fishing opportunities in this tournament. But let's get into the reason you're all watching, the Keystone Crew's picks. My gut picks. Here's my gut picks. They are the picks that I made right when the buckets were released without any research. Now, I'm going outside the box a little bit on some of these. But Bucket A, I have Brandon Cobb, currently owned by 46%. He's pretty much the only conventional pick I have on here, till Bucket D anyway. Bucket B, now hear me out. I'm going with Jonathan Kelley. He's owned by 0.2%, but he did spend a lot of time in the Carolinas going to coastal Carolina. So I expect him to be somewhat familiar with these lakes, and maybe he has fished them in the past and has some familiarity with them. So he's my pick for Bucket B. Bucket C, I'm going with Austin Felix. He's owned by 5%. Bucket D, I'm going with Brandon Palaniuk because you'll never see him in Bucket D again. It's unbelievable that he's there. Not the start that he is hoping for, probably, to defend his Angler of the Year title. But he's owned by 19.3%. And Bucket E, I'm taking Matty Wong, with 0.9% owned. He spends a lot of time with Jonathan Kelley. I highly recommend you guys go check them out on their social medias. They've been rooming together, traveling together, and they're spending a lot of time. So maybe Jonathan Kelley gave him some of that info about the Carolinas. Also, he's a stand-up guy. I met him at the event at the St. Lawrence River. He took time to talk to us and everything. What an awesome dude. On to the research picks. Here's my actual research-based picks. Once again, I power rank picks from Bass Pundits, different articles I read, and the videos I watch. So here's my power rankings. For Bucket A, my top 5 anglers are Drew Cook, 4.9% owned. Shane LaHue, 1.8% owned. Brandon Cobb, 46% owned. Brandon Card, 6.9% owned. And John Cox, with 10.4% owned. However, my pick is Brandon Cobb with that 46%, and the crew's research pick is Drew Cook with 4.9%. On to bucket B. Here's my top anglers here. We got Patrick Walters, 37.3% owned. Matt Airy, 10.9% owned. Drew Benton, 10.5% owned. David Gaston, 0.4% owned. And Stetson Blaylock, 5.2% owned. My pick, though, and I'm going with this gut pick. I know it's a homer pick because he's from my area, northeastern Pennsylvania, representing Jonathan Kelley, 0.2% owned. Remember, he did go to Coastal Carolina. So I'm hoping that it's a sneaky good pick. He's a very low percentage pick, and I'm hoping that, he comes through for me. The cruise pick, though, is Patrick Walters with that 37.3% owned. Bucket C. My top-ranked anglers there are KJ Queen, 4.9% owned. Steve Kennedy, 10.4% owned. Jake Whitaker, 4.3% owned. Scott Martin, 11.9% owned. And Corey Johnson, 26.8% owned. My pick was Austin Felix at that 5%. That's my gut pick. And the cruise research pick is KJ Queen at that 4.9% owned. On to bucket D. My top-ranked angler there is Jacob Powroznik, 11.1% owned, followed by Brandon Palaniuk, 19.3%, Jason Williamson, 6.6%, Justin Atkins, 2.5%, and Brandon Lester with 16.8%. My pick, though, is Brandon Palaniuk with the 19.3%, and the cruise research pick is Jacob Powroznik, 11.1% owned. On to bucket E. I've got Bryan New going with the flow here, 69.7% owned there is the top-ranked angler. Followed by David Williams, 1.4%. David Mullins, 5.3%. Todd Otten, 8.5%. And then Alex Redwine rounding it out at 0.2% owned. My pick, though, is Matty Wong with 0.9%. I'm hoping that some of Jonathan Kelley's knowledge maybe, rubbed off on him with all the time they're spending together. And the cruise pick is Bryan New with that 69.7% owned. Tie-breaking weight here. I wasn't really sure how to pick this one, so I'm going in the 80s. I got 88 pounds, 9 ounces. Here's a review of my picks for the gut picks. Research picks. On to Mercury Drain the Lake. Lastly, here's my Drain the Lake picks. Drain the Lake's an elimination or survivor-style game where you can only use an angler once all season. Once you use them, they're burned, they're done for the season, so pick wisely. Here's my 8 anglers I got teed up for that. Matt Airy, Brandon Cobb, Shane LaHue, Bryan New, Jacob Powroznik, KJ Queen, Jake Whitaker, and Jason Williamson. That'll wrap it up here for the first stop of the South Carolina Swing. Stay tuned for the picks for our next event. Good luck to everyone out there, and as always, I'll catch you next time.